Hello, nerds, and welcome to the Engadget podcast. My name is Terrence O'Brien. Joining me this week, to my right, Mona Lawani. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm not.
I know. I can see that. In your face, I can see the dread. I've been trying to get you to come on the podcast for many, many weeks now. You finally caved and agreed.
It feels good so far for the first 2 seconds.
It's a little chilly in here, but
it is, yeah.
You've got your jean jacket.
Yeah,
so you're okay.
I'm dressed for it.
Yeah.
And that other voice is a familiar one. Dana Wallman, managing editor.
Dana Puppet editor.
Dana Puppet editor?
I just wanted to say puppet. I'm
you just
sorry.
wanted to say puppet?
Yeah. Hi guys.
Whose puppet are you?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think that far.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll assign someone to be your puppet master.
Okay.
All right. It will not be me, just to be clear, because I don't have any interest in even being my own puppet master. Nonetheless, somebody else's.
He's weird.
What? I'm just letting you know that it won't be me. Somebody else.
Good to know.
Yes. Can we make you... No. There's just too many ways this can go terrible. Let's move on to Flame Wars, which is how we start every week. Mona, you are new here, so allow me to explain the rules. We are going to debate the biggest topics of the week, and by we, I mean you and Dana. You'll get 20 seconds to make your opening statements. I will allow a brief time for rebuttal, at which point I will declare a winner. We are keeping score at the end of the season, which will end at CES. The person with the best winning percentage will get something not that nice, and the person with the worst winning percentage will probably have to do something embarrassing on stage.
Sounds cool.
So you might want to make sure that you don't lose all three of these arguments today, because I will drag you on stage. And
I know. I'm kind of dreading that.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with something that's started making the rounds a little bit earlier this week as we are gearing up for yet another Apple event, because they seemingly are never ending. And that is that there is rumors floating around that Apple is going to start pushing towards having e-ink keyboards on their MacBooks. And this is not next year, not for the newest models, but they're pushing in that direction, and hopefully by 2018. Dana, your 20 seconds starts now.
Okay, this is an intellectual exercise, does not actually reflect the views of the author. But yes, sure, e-ink on MacBooks. Apple would be taking a concept that didn't even invent itself, the Sonder e-ink keyboard. So it would not be making its own mistakes in a first-generation product.
You were not excited to have to make that argument.
No.
That one was rough.
It doesn't bode well for your chances. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I know.
Mona, your incredibly easy task of rebutting that begins now.
I actually watched the Sonder demo video, did you? I'm not sure. But when I watched it, I actually wasn't impressed at all, because the transitions between the changes that they're sort of recommending just took forever. And as a writer, I'm just not sure I want that kind of workflow change in my everyday life. So no, I do not need it.
She came in under time. She's like an old pro at this. That's like Devindra-like almost.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. I'll take it.
Well, so Dana, what is the practical benefits of having an e-ink keyboard, though?
That it would be potentially context aware, and that it would be easier to use different alphabets. But really, you can already use different alphabets. I'm gonna
exactly my point.
I'm gonna defect and also join Team Mona on this one. The only thing I can say, and this really isn't answering the question at hand, is that any updates to the MacBooks at this point would be welcome, even if they miss the mark. It would be nice to know that Apple is iterating and innovating on the line, even if it makes some mistakes. But surely at this event next week, we'll get, at the very least, newer processors and things that serve a practical use, even if they're not exciting.
When was the last time they were updated?
Years ago. I mean, definitely more than 1 year. We're talking multiple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mona, since she's just conceded defeat, do you have any additional things you'd like to say?
I mean, for me, honestly, I get the idea of e-ink, and I think it looks great and it feels great. It's easier on the eyes, but I kind of feel like it's a step back. We're going through super high-res and bright with everything else, but for the keyboard, we're like, going a step back. I kind of
And for
don't get it.
2018, right?
Yeah, it just doesn't make
It's
sense
like
to
we'll
me.
have self-driving cars on the roads and
yeah,
eating
and eating
computers.
keyboards.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense. I'm gonna
But
have to
then
agree with
it
you
might
guys
not
on
be
that one.
true.
Yeah, it might not.
Yeah.
be.
I think I'm in denial about this rumor. I don't want it to be true.
No.
No.
The more believable rumor that was making the rounds was something about them doing away with USB ports, I believe, right?
You mean full-size ones?
Yeah.
I mean, they would.
Yeah, that one, which is why we're not going to debate that, because it seems like a thing they'll do, and there's just no point in arguing about it.
Yeah, it sounds like an Apple thing to do.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, they'll get rid of, I don't know, screens and power ports and everything else. Every other thing that makes a computer, they'll just do away with.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Amazon, though. Rumors started circulating that they're looking to get into the ISP business in Europe. There it's a little bit easier for companies to kind of dip their toes in the water because there aren't the same. I shouldn't say there aren't the same regulations. Their regulations are actually in some ways more strict. Basically, they're looking to operate like an MVNO, where they buy bandwidth from other companies and serve Amazon Internet over that as part of a Prime subscription bundle. We started with you last time, Dana. Mona, your 20 seconds starts now.
So I actually don't think it's going to be a good move on Amazon's part. I think they'll get to definitely boost the Prime Video service, and that's probably why they're going to do this. But I think it's like a super complicated and expensive experiment to take on, which Amazon has zero experience with. So I don't see how it's going to be a good move.
Again, very Devindra-like.
Yeah.
Dana, what benefits does this have for either Amazon or its customers?
So one benefit for consumers potentially is that if Amazon's controlling both the bandwidth and the content, it can no longer throw a third-party ISP under the bus if it doesn't deliver speed sufficient for video streaming, which is what you'll see in the U.S. You see the likes of Netflix pointing at, let's say, Comcast or some other big ISP and saying, well, let them deal with it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that bit. I think it's definitely that's a benefit. But at the same time, kind of to bundle the video service and be the internet provider, to me, that's a little bit dicey. Like, how do you get away with that?
That wouldn't fly, certainly, here in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, a quick question about the whole not being able to throw a third party under the bus. So I think that makes some sense to me, but when you start digging a little bit, I don't know if that argument necessarily holds up because they are basically just leasing bandwidth from another company. So it's not like Amazon is building their own pipes. Their name would be attached to it. I don't know if it would be effective, but they could still throw whoever it is that they're leasing that bandwidth from under the bus. Like if it was, I don't know the names of net providers in Europe or the UK. Does Sky provide internet or Vodafone? Those sound like things, right?
I don't know. Where's a European when you need one?
Not on this podcast,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But at least that's my understanding, is that it would operate much like an MVNO in the US. Like Google's Fi is not Google's network. It's Google paying for space on Sprint and I want to say T-Mobile, right? I could be wrong about that, but I know it's definitely Sprint. And so if things go wrong, Google's the name on the bill maybe, but really at fault it's Sprint for their job to maintain the network.
Yeah, I didn't actually think of it that way.
Although it would still be Amazon handling customer service complaints about
Yes.
its potentially crappy network.
Yes.
So they have some incentive to stand by it and feel accountable.
Oh, yeah. I think at the end of the day, customers probably aren't going to make the distinction. The customers are probably going to be like, no, it's Amazon's internet service that sucks, not whoever it is that actually owns the pipes. Trying to think if there's any other sort of outstanding questions around this. I mean, this is one of these other ones.
The tricky thing is that none of us are scholars about European net neutrality
No.
laws.
So I mean what you're saying about it being raising alarms, it raises alarms for us as Americans.
Yeah.
I don't actually know very much about European net neutrality law, and it's probably going to vary somewhat country to country, I assume.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's why it's easier for them to experiment with this in Europe, right? There's got to be, I don't know, there's got to be some reason why they're doing it.
Surely Amazon would still have to provide, allow for any other service on its network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, especially if it is an MVNO. Then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazon likes to experiment, though, and they've been doing that a lot recently, but their track record is a little spotty, right? I mean, yes, no.
Experimenting in.
Well, I mean, they like to dip their toes in things that they don't have a ton of experience in. Building phones.
Oh, right. Drone
building
deliveries.
tablets.
Yeah.
And even, I guess to a lesser extent, and we'll see how well this plays out, with the Echo and Alexa, Amazon has always been about trying to build this ecosystem, and this seems like a natural extension of that. But I don't know how much they've succeeded at the other parts of it, which would give me pause about buying into an Amazon ISP. No?
Yeah, although that decision is at least more reversible than some, if you didn't like it.
It's true. You can always just back out of a contract.
Hopefully it's easier than canceling a Comcast plan.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this one to Mona.
Okay.
So you, at this point, as long as you don't come back on the show, by the way, you're pretty much guaranteed not to be the last place person.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't come back then.
Yeah. spend the next couple of months just avoiding me.
Basically.
All right. So here's let's move on to our last topic for Flame Wars, and this is a little bit of a controversial one, a little bit of a dicey one. Mm-hmm. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have been accused of basically acting as an extension of the Russian government and trying to meddle in the U.S. election. Barring all of that, Ecuador shut off his internet access temporarily and is now restricting his communications, basically as a way to keep him from doing that, saying that Ecuador has no interest in being part of interfering with American elections. So my question to you is Ecuador right to go out of its way to restrict the communications of a single person who is not facing criminal charges in that country? And is that effective in keeping him from meddling in the U.S. election? Dana, your turn first.
Definitely, I'm going to just come out and say this is not part of my argument, but I really loathe Julian Assange on multiple levels. And so I don't know if per se he is cooperating with the Russian government. Who knows what contact he actually does indeed have with them. But he is meddling with the election, and I think that needed to stop. And so I am fully in support of what Ecuador did there.
Came in right under the buzzer, but
Yeah.
I wanted to hit it anyway. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite thing on the podcast, as
I know.
I repeatedly say. Mona, your rebuttal.
I think if you specifically think about the leaks, and if you think about why they published it, is it for the greater good of the public? I think it was. And I think that people have the right to kind of read that and make a decision for themselves. It also feels a little strange to me that this is the time that they chose to step in and shut it down. Why didn't they do it before?
Dana, do you have any rebuttals?
I would feel more sympathetic to the idea of the public good if Julian Assange himself were more of a careful, responsible curator of information. And I think this is where he differs, let's say, from Edward Snowden and his media partners. Even Edward Snowden himself, the leaker of all that treasure trove of information, was in favor of some measure of restraint,
Right.
vetting of what gets made public and what doesn't. His media partners have been very careful. Julian Assange is just more in favor of an information dump. I think he's less careful, less responsible, and I don't consider him a journalist. And I think that's really at the core of my feelings for him and about him.
So, putting aside whether or not Julian Assange is a good person, I don't think any three of us are going to argue that he
No.
is. whether or not you think what he does as a member of WikiLeaks is.
No, I'm not
greater
even
good.
getting into what a misogynist and anti-Semite I think he is, but
Yeah.
I just don't think what he's doing and has done is responsible.
Yeah, I don't think many people would say that he does things with good intentions as a general rule. But here's a bigger question, and I want to put this to you, Mona, which is, Ecuador turned off his personal access to the internet and restricted his communications personally in order to stop him from interfering in the American election. But it didn't stop WikiLeaks. No. And really all it kind of did, it seems, was like draw more attention. Yeah. Is this effective or is it counterproductive?
I think it's definitely counterproductive. I think even when it was announced, WikiLeaks immediately tweeted saying they had contingency plans in place, and they've actually dumped some 4,000 or 5,000 emails, I believe, ever since. That's a huge number. So I don't think it's actually going to stop the damage or stop WikiLeaks from interfering with the election. So I'm not sure that this was the right move in sort of putting.
Does that mean Ecuador shouldn't have attempted anything?
I don't think they should have, to be honest. I completely get it. I get that he's not a journalist and it shouldn't be up to him. But at the same time, is it up to the government to? I also don't kind of get their sort of moral stand on this. They're like, oh, we don't want to interfere or kind of meddle with the international affairs, which is fine. But this isn't the only instance where he sort of leaks something about a different country, right? Why didn't you come in earlier? So for me, it's much more of a political play as opposed to a moral stand that the government's taking. So.
Dana?
It probably is more of a political play, but one I am grateful for.
So
That's fair.
Do you think it is an effective way, even if not to deter Assange or prevent him from meddling in the U.S. election, but was it effective in sending a message in some way to people who might be considering the same thing?
Considering doing what?
Considering leaking additional documents, considering trying to interfere in the American electoral process, trying to influence.
I guess it's interesting that you sort of lump those together because I have a lot more respect for the actual leaker, which is in this case Chelsea Manning, than I do the publisher of the information. And so I don't think Chelsea Manning is an interferer with elections, and I don't think that was ever the intent. So yeah, you sort of lumped all those together. I don't feel the same about leaking versus interfering with elections.
Okay, so let's specifically take the idea of leaking things in a controlled way, in the way that the Chelsea Manning stuff was done and the way the Snowden stuff was done, and look at pure data dumps and think of it in that way. Because I think there is a distinct difference between what WikiLeaks did with the diplomatic cables and what Snowden did with all the NSA documents and what we got with Podesta's emails, which was unredacted, unedited, just literally a dump of somebody's personal communications without thought about the impact. And
I don't know if it really sends a message to anyone else. And in a way, that's okay for me. I think it at least sends a message to Assange that you cannot just hole up and evade charges in this house and expect the same luxuries that you would if you were a law-abiding person not hiding out in an embassy in a foreign country.
Do you think it is effective in that? Do you think that he did get that message?
I think he, what does it mean to get the message? Would he not do it going forward? I'm sure he would, but I think at my core what I'm saying is, and I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this, is I am in favor. Is it a dick move toward Assange? Is it spiteful?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Great. I don't like Assange. I am pro anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you need to read too much into what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You really don't.
I don't know who to declare a winner on this one. I'm going to go with a tie, which I don't think I've done before.
Ooh, that's new.
Speaking of political play versus a moral play.
Well, here's what I'm going to say is I think you, Dana, make very good points, and I tend to agree with you that Julian Assange is a garbage human with no good intentions, and disconnecting him from the world is a good move.
Who we should not feel bad for.
No, in theory. But I also think Mona's right in that cutting him off is not effective and is, in fact, very counterproductive in that it only raises his, why am I blanking on the word I'm looking for? I make a great podcast host, guys. I'm the best. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of raises his image amongst people. People look at him as being this persecuted, figure for trying to fight for radical transparency. Nobody who tends to agree with Assange in general is looking at this and saying to themselves, you know what? Ecuador was right. They made the right move. It's just going to get him more sympathetic coverage from The Intercept. So we end the day. Mona wins 2.
Woohoo!
Dana and Mona get a tie, which I'm just going to give you both a win for that one.
Okay.
I like that.
If that seems fair.
Yeah.
Although that means that I guess I have to give you both a win and a loss for that. All right, we'll do it that way. Because if I give you a win and no loss, that means you have to come on stage for CES again.
I like that you're going out of your way to keep me off stage. I like that. We should stick with that.
I'm trying to help you out. I'm looking out for you.
I like that.
Doing my thinking emoji face here.